Hello, all you kings, queens, and those in between, and welcome to another minisode of Busted Line. I'm your host, Paresh Maharaj, and today I want to talk about difficulty in video games. Yeah, you could probably tell from the way I said that I put scare quotes around difficulty, and there's a reason for that. I recently played through Shadow of the Tomb Raider's hardest difficulty, and I'm currently playing through the hardest difficulty of the Final Fantasy VII remake. Now, I know the easy comparison when talking difficulty is to the Soulsborne series like Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and my personal favorite, Bloodborne. But I'm going to say something that may ruffle a few feathers. Tomb Raider and Final Fantasy VII's hardest difficulties are harder than Soulsborne games. Hear me out. I said that they were harder than Soulsborne. The thing is, they're harder for all the wrong reasons. And I think Tomb Raider and Final Fantasy's hardest difficulties fail in their own unique ways. Tomb Raider mistakes tedium for difficulty, and Final Fantasy does what most other games do with their hardest difficulty, and just bump up enemy damage, bar you from using items, and making no other adjustments. Before I elaborate on those, I think I should explain what makes a game difficult for the correct reasons. I'm going to use Bloodborne as my example, since that's the Souls game that I'm most familiar with. Bloodborne is a difficult game. That goes without saying. Anyone who tells you otherwise is either a liar, a douchebag, or a lying douchebag. But here's the thing. Bloodborne is designed with its difficulty in mind. There are mechanics that ease the burden once you understand and get the hang of them, whether it be parrying, breaking a boss's limbs, or correctly timing your dodges. Seriously, there's these things called invincibility frames, or iframes, that are exactly what they sound like. Moments during a dodge where you are briefly invincible. Not only that, but the hitboxes are so polished that once you get the hang of it, there are attacks that you can literally walk around. So where do Tomb Raider and Final Fantasy go wrong? Well, like I said earlier, Tomb Raider thinks tedium equals difficulty. The combat difficulty remains pretty much the same because you're allowed to keep all of your upgrades from previous playthroughs. The main difference is checkpoints are fewer and further between. So if you die, it is entirely possible that you have to start over from behind an unskippable puzzle. That's not difficult. That's just annoying. And then there's the Final Fantasy VII remake, whose approach to its hardest difficulty is one that I've seen in a lot of games, but with one twist. Like other hard difficulties, it bumps up the enemy's damage, but this game takes it a step further and completely locks you out of using items. No potions, no elixirs, no Phoenix Downs, nothing. So you're forced to use magic to heal and revive your teammates. That part is fine. It forces you to be smart and manage your magic points. My problem comes during the combat sections. See, Final Fantasy VII's combat places more of an emphasis on blocking rather than dodging. Matter of fact, I don't even see the point of dodging since I've encountered attacks that hit no matter how much you dodge or even run away, which leaves blocking as your only option. And this is where my biggest problem is. You still take chip damage from when you block, and in the hard difficulty, the amount of chip damage you take increases drastically. There was one boss battle where I took 4 figures of chip damage, even with a fully upgraded steadfast block materia. That's the materia that reduces chip damage. So really, the only benefit to blocking is just to prevent from being knocked off your feet. And before any of you give me shit about getting good, first of all, show me your Bloodborne Platinum trophy before you even talk to me. And second of all, do you know what getting good at Final Fantasy VII looks like? It looks like grinding through an 18-chapter game story, leveling up your materia and characters. And if you don't level up playing through the story, your other option is to play the same fights in the Colosseum over and over and over again. Ask me how I know how unfun that is. The point that I'm getting at is that it's clear that video game developers in general have no idea what makes difficulty compelling. There's more to it than pitting you against a bunch of enemies that could one-shot you in the blink of an eye or making you redo a puzzle, because that's just normal mode with a few tweaks, and that's lazy. Compelling difficulty comes from reaching that satisfying aha moment when you figure out how to properly dodge an attack. Compelling difficulty comes from landing a juicy hit on a boss that has had you scrambling around the arena. Compelling difficulty comes from mowing down a group of enemies that turned you into mincemeat on your first playthrough because you mastered your favorite weapon. At the end of the day, compelling difficulty takes effort.